Xylee had always been the smallest among her kind. In a galaxy where size and strength determined status, she was a misfit, often overlooked or mocked by her own species. Her people, the Thrylians, prided themselves on perfection. Every movement was precise, every thought measured, every mate carefully chosen based on intelligence, physical prowess, and lineage. But Xylee's tiny frame, fragile wings, and awkward gestures made her a source of amusement for many. She remembered the first time she had tried to join a mating circle. The males had looked down at her, sneering, whispering among themselves. "She's too small," one had said. "Not enough presence," another added. Xylee had tried to speak up, to explain that size did not define worth, but her words were drowned by laughter and scorn. That day she learned that no matter how clever, how brave, or how kind she would never be enough for them. Years passed in this pattern. Every invitation, every hopeful glance, every attempt at connection ended the same way: rejection. It became a quiet ache in her chest, a shadow she carried even while performing her duties, exploring the outer rings of Thrylia space, or observing other planets through telescopic arrays. She longed for a place where she could belong, where her differences were not punishable, where her existence was valued simply because she existed. The opportunity came unexpectedly. A rare message from the outer edge of the galaxy spoke of uncharted space, a region so wild and uncontrolled that even Thrylian scouts avoided it. Xylee's curiosity burned. She decided she would leave. If the universe would not accept her, she would find a corner of it where she could be free. She prepared her small ship, packing minimal supplies, relying on her skills in navigation and survival. The journey was difficult. Xylee had to maneuver through asteroid fields, dodge cosmic storms, and repair her ship with limited tools. She discovered a resilience in herself that she had never been allowed to display. The challenges were numerous, but she faced them with a stubborn determination. She was small, yes, but she was clever, resourceful, and persistent. These traits, she realized, were her true strengths. After weeks of travel, Xylee's ship entered a vibrant blue and green planet's orbit. It was unlike any celestial body she had ever seen. The planet teemed with life, but in ways entirely unpredictable. Forests stretched endlessly, rivers meandered in random patterns, and creatures of all shapes and sizes moved with astonishing chaos. For the first time, Xylee felt a twinge of excitement. Here, order was not absolute. Here, imperfections were not only tolerated but celebrated. However, her excitement was short-lived. The planet's atmosphere was turbulent and her small ship was caught in a violent storm. Lightning split the sky, winds buffeted her craft, and she struggled to maintain control. Panic surged, but Xylee forced herself to focus. She calculated trajectories, adjusted shields, and activated emergency thrusters. Sparks flew inside the cockpit, panels flickered, and the hum of the engines became erratic. Then, with a final jolt, the ship crashed into a clearing, skidding over rocks and dirt before finally coming to rest. Xylee was shaken but unharmed. She stepped outside, her tiny frame shivering against the unfamiliar winds. The air was thick with moisture and smell, a sensory overload she had never experienced. She had no idea what creatures might be nearby. Every instinct screamed caution, yet a part of her thrilled at the unpredictability. This world was alive in a way her orderly, judgmental home planet could never be. As she explored the clearing, she noticed movement. Small, upright figures with strange limbs and glowing eyes were nearby. She froze, unsure whether they were hostile. The creatures approached cautiously, their gaze curious but not aggressive. Xylee realized these were humans, though they were unlike any being she had ever catalogued. They laughed, gestured, and spoke in sounds she could barely decipher, but their expressions conveyed openness, friendliness, and curiosity. One human, taller than the others and with kind eyes, noticed her immediately. Unlike her species, this human did not recoil at her small size or alien form. He stepped closer slowly, speaking in a calm, melodic tone. Xylee felt her chest tighten. She wanted to flee, to hide as she always had, but something in his voice made her hesitate. There was no judgment there, only interest. "I'm Alex," the human said. "Are you okay?" Alex smiled gently. "It's all right," he said. "You don't have to be afraid, we're friends." He brought her food, explained the world she had crash-landed on, and most importantly, treated her as an equal. Xylee marveled at the human's ways. They solved problems unpredictably, using intuition and creativity rather than rigid logic. They laughed when mistakes were made and comforted each other when things went wrong. It was messy, chaotic, and utterly beautiful. Xylee felt something stirring inside her, a sense of belonging, the faint hope that she might not always be an outsider. Yet, even in this new world, Xylee could not escape the shadow of her past. Memories of rejection gnawed at her. Could she truly trust someone, even a human, after being scorned by her entire species? Alex sensed her hesitation, never pressing, only offering small gestures of patience and kindness. Slowly, Xylee began to let down her guard, realizing that being vulnerable did not mean being weak. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with fiery oranges and purples, Xylee and Alex sat by a stream. She watched the water ripple over rocks, listening to the gentle hum of life around her. "This world, it's so alive," she whispered, her voice almost lost in the wind. Alex nodded. "It's full of surprises, you never know what's coming next, but that's what makes it exciting, don't you think?" For her, life had always been about calculations, measurements, and fitting expectations. Here, she felt the possibility of freedom of choice. As night fell, stars scattered across the sky like diamonds. Xylee looked up, her tiny wings twitching with anticipation. Somewhere out there, beyond the atmosphere, the galaxy stretched endlessly. She had left a world that rejected her, yet now she felt the stirrings of hope. Perhaps, just perhaps, she could find a place where she was valued for herself. But Xylee was not naive. She knew danger could come at any time. The Thrylians were far-reaching, and news of her disappearance would likely follow. And yet, for the first time, fear was not the only emotion she felt. Courage, curiosity, and even a flicker of something unfamiliar, excitement filled her heart. She turned to Alex, who smiled at her, offering a hand. "We'll figure this out together," he said. Xylee hesitated, then took his hand, feeling a connection she had never known. It was a bond not based on status, strength, or perfection, but on acceptance and trust. In that moment, she realized that her journey was no longer just about escape. It was about discovering what she was truly capable of, and perhaps learning to love and be loved in return. The galaxy was vast, and Xylee had only just begun to explore its wonders. But with a human by her side, she felt a strength she had never imagined. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she would face them. She would survive, she would belong, and maybe, somewhere along the way, she might even find the love she had been denied by her own kind. The first night on this strange, chaotic, and beautiful planet ended with Xylee lying under the stars, wings folded, heart racing with a mixture of fear and hope. The universe was unpredictable, but for the first time she did not feel small. She felt alive. And in the quiet hum of life around her, she whispered to herself, almost in disbelief, maybe this is the start of something wonderful." Xylee woke to the gentle warmth of the sun spilling through the thick leaves of the forest canopy. The strange sounds of earth, chirping birds, rustling leaves, and distant animal calls filled her senses, reminding her of how alive this planet was. For the first time, she felt a sense of calm, though her mind remained alert. She could not forget that she was far from home, a tiny alien in a strange world, vulnerable in ways she had never been before. Alex was already awake, moving quietly near the small camp they had set up beside a clear stream. He hummed softly as he gathered supplies for the day, his careful attention to detail both reassuring and fascinating to Xylee. She watched him for a moment, studying the subtle movements humans made, the way he interacted with the environment as if it were a puzzle to solve. Her species valued efficiency above all, but humans approached life with a mix of unpredictability and intuition that she found both baffling and inspiring. "You awake?" Alex asked without turning, his voice gentle but carrying a quiet energy that seemed to fill the space around him. Xylee nodded. "Yes. I am awake." Her words sounded foreign to her own ears, as if her voice itself was learning the rhythm of this planet. Alex smiled and held out a small container of food. "Eat. You need energy. There's a lot to see today." As she tasted it, she felt a strange delight. The flavors were complex yet comforting, not calculated like Thrylian food, which was always measured for exact nutrition. Here, taste seemed to exist for enjoyment, for connection, for the experience itself. Xylee found herself smiling, a small but genuine expression. After breakfast, Alex took her on a journey through the nearby forest. They walked among towering trees, their trunks twisting in ways that defied any logic she had studied in the stars. Birds darted between branches and small creatures scurried across the underbrush, unaware of the alien visitor observing them. Xylee marveled at the chaos, the lack of rigid patterns, the freedom with which life moved. It was exhilarating. "This place, it is unlike anything I have studied," she admitted. Her voice carried awe and curiosity. "It is disordered yet alive." Chaos was dangerous, often deadly. Yet here, chaos seemed to thrive and life itself seemed stronger for it. The thought was both terrifying and liberating. As they continued deeper into the forest, Xylee noticed strange markings on the trees, small patterns etched into bark and leaves. Alex explained that humans often marked their surroundings, leaving trails, symbols, or reminders. Xylee found the act strange yet beautiful. It was not perfection, it was expression, evidence of presence. She felt a pang of longing. On her homeworld, any deviation from the norm was punished. Here, individuality was celebrated. Their exploration took them to a small clearing where a river wound lazily through moss-covered rocks. Xylee dipped her hand into the cool water, fascinated by how it moved freely, flowing around obstacles rather than trying to destroy them. Alex joined her, sitting beside her and letting his fingers trail through the current. "You're different," he said quietly. "Not like anyone I've ever met. My species does not accept me." Their peaceful exploration was interrupted by a sudden, high-pitched signal in the distance. Alex's expression shifted. He pulled a small device from his pack, scanning the signal. "Sensors strange. Something's approaching. Could be a probe or maybe another human team." Alex crouched beside her. "Whatever it is, we'll handle it. Stay close." Xylee instinctively shrank back, hoping to remain unseen. Alex stepped forward, raising a hand in greeting. "We're friends. There's no need to worry." On her homeworld, any encounter like this would have been dangerous, a test of dominance or a hunt for weaknesses. Here, humans seemed curious rather than threatening. One of them, a woman with sharp eyes, knelt to Xylee's level. "You're not from here," she said softly. Her voice was not mocking. It carried genuine curiosity. Xylee nodded cautiously. "I am not." "Then you're like us, explorers. Maybe we can learn from each other." They only asked questions, wanting to understand. For hours, they communicated as best they could. Xylee used gestures, sounds, and learned words while Alex translated and helped bridge gaps. She found the process exhausting but thrilling. She was learning, adapting, and connecting. Every smile, every nod, every careful observation strengthened her confidence. As the day wore on, Xylee discovered another human quality she had not anticipated: humor. One of the scientists, noticing her small wings struggling to fold properly, made a gentle joke. Xylee blinked in confusion. Alex laughed softly, explaining the meaning. Xylee hesitated, then realized she was smiling. It was a new experience, finding joy in imperfection. Evening came, painting the sky with brilliant reds and purples. Xylee and Alex returned to their camp, the humans following at a respectful distance. Xylee reflected on everything she had experienced that day: kindness, curiosity, laughter, unpredictability, freedom. She realized that humans did not require perfection. They valued creativity, courage, and connection. For the first time in her life, Xylee felt the stirrings of hope, but hope brought anxiety. Her species would not abandon her so easily. Thrylians were relentless, and news of her absence would surely spread. What would they think if they found her here? Would they demand her return? Would they punish her for associating with humans? Xylee shivered at the thought. The galaxy was wide, but danger was never far. Alex noticed her tension. "You're thinking too much," he said gently. "We can handle whatever comes together." A place where her size, her wings, her differences did not define her. Night deepened, and Xylee lay beneath a canopy of unfamiliar stars. She remembered her home, the cold, precise, judgmental skies of Thrylia, and shivered. But here, under this chaotic, vibrant sky, she felt alive. She realized that she had survived rejection, journeyed across the galaxy alone, and found herself in a world that offered curiosity instead of scorn, warmth instead of judgment. She whispered quietly, almost to herself, maybe there is a place where I belong." She dreamed of discovering the vast, unpredictable wonders of this world, of learning from humans, from Alex, and perhaps finding more than just safety, perhaps a sense of connection, of acceptance, and even love. Her tiny heart, once heavy with despair, now thumped with cautious excitement. The galaxy was wide, and danger was everywhere, but so was possibility. And Xylee, small but resilient, was ready to embrace it all. Days passed in the strange forest world, and Xylee began to understand more of what it meant to live among humans. She marveled at their ways, their laughter, their mistakes, their endless curiosity. Every day was an adventure. Every sound, every gesture, every new discovery seemed to fill her with wonder. Yet even as she learned, a shadow loomed over her. Her own species would never forget her. Thrylians were relentless in pursuit, and Xylee knew that sooner or later they would arrive. Alex sensed her unease. One evening, as they sat beside the gently flowing river, he asked, "What's on your mind, Xylee? You're quieter than usual." "They will find me. They will judge me." Xylee had begun to see that perhaps these were the qualities that truly mattered. The next morning, while Xylee and Alex explored a nearby valley, strange signals appeared on their devices. Alex frowned, scanning the readings. "Sensors are picking up something unusual, something fast. Could be a probe or someone following us." "My people, I feel it." Days turned into nights as they prepared. Xylee trained with him, learning not only human strategies but also appreciating their unpredictability. Unlike Thrylians, humans did not rely solely on strength or rules. They improvised, adapted, and often turned what seemed like weaknesses into advantages. Xylee marveled at this. Then, one evening, the first Thrylian scouts arrived. They appeared without warning, sleek ships gliding through the sky above the forest. Xylee's heart raced as she watched them land. Their forms were imposing, tall, perfectly symmetrical, and precise. The leaders of her species were coming for her, and they carried the cold judgment that had defined her life. Alex stood beside her, holding a device that emitted signals meant to confuse and mislead the scouts. "We'll get through this," he said, though he knew the challenge was immense. Humans could survive in many conditions, but facing an advanced alien species with superior technology was unprecedented. The Thrylians stepped onto the ground, their gazes scanning the forest with calculated precision. Xylee felt the familiar weight of judgment, the sting of rejection, even though she now had allies. She trembled, remembering every moment of ridicule, every whisper, every dismissive glance. But she also remembered Alex's words, his encouragement, and the kindness she had felt from humans. One of the Thrylians, taller than the rest, spoke. His voice was sharp and precise. "Xylee, you have strayed from your path. You will return. Your choices are unacceptable." They could not comprehend a being rejecting perfection and order in favor of unpredictability and emotion. To them, her decision was an insult, a challenge to their authority. Alex stepped beside her. "You won't take her," he said, his tone calm but firm. "She's not yours to command." By all logic, they should have been easy to intimidate. Yet Alex's calm confidence, his quick thinking, and his willingness to stand up for Xylee made them pause. It was unexpected. A tense silence fell. Then one of the scouts lunged, aiming to capture Xylee. Alex triggered a trap he had prepared, a simple device that emitted disorienting pulses of light and sound. The scout stumbled, confused. Xylee, using her small size to her advantage, darted between trees, moving faster than the larger Thrylians could follow. For hours, a chase unfolded through the dense forest. Xylee's agility and the humans' unpredictability turned what should have been an easy capture into a challenge. She realized something remarkable. Her tiny size, once a liability, was now a strength. The Thrylians' rigid expectations of physical dominance worked against them in this chaotic, unpredictable environment. By nightfall, the scouts retreated, their pride wounded and their mission incomplete. Xylee collapsed beside the river, exhausted but exhilarated. Alex handed her water, smiling. "See, you're stronger than you think, and humans, well, we improvise." She had survived the first confrontation with her species. She had learned that strength was not only measured in size or perfection, but in courage, adaptability, and the willingness to stand for one's choices. Humans had shown her a new kind of power, one that Thrylians could not understand. The following days were a mix of preparation and discovery. Xylee and Alex continued to explore, learning about each other's worlds. Xylee taught him some Thrylian techniques, methods of observation, analysis, and efficiency, while Alex introduced her to human creativity, humor, and the art of improvisation. The exchange of knowledge strengthened their bond, forging trust and mutual admiration. Xylee noticed something unexpected. She was beginning to feel affection. She did not fully understand it yet, but the way Alex looked at her, the care he showed, the patience he offered, it stirred emotions she had never experienced. On Thrylia, affection was transactional, a means to gain approval or status. Here, it was genuine, uncalculated, and comforting. She found herself drawn to him, wanting to stay near him, to share every discovery, every fear, every triumph. One evening, as the forest glowed under the light of a full moon, Xylee and Alex sat by a fire. Xylee had just returned from scouting a new path through the trees. She paused, staring into the flames. I never thought I could feel like this," she admitted quietly. Alex tilted his head, curious. "Like what?" The words were foreign, yet comforting. She realized that the galaxy she had feared, the vast, uncaring expanse, could also hold love, connection, and acceptance. Humans had shown her that value was not determined by size, perfection, or status, but by courage, kindness, and choice. Their growing bond, however, did not go unnoticed. The Thrylian scouts returned, more numerous and prepared. They were angered by Xylee's defiance and the humans' interference. Their ships glimmered against the forest canopy, sleek and formidable, a reminder that danger was never far. Alex and Xylee quickly organized defenses. Using human ingenuity, they set traps and planned ambushes, turning the chaotic forest to their advantage. Xylee's small size and agility allowed her to move through narrow spaces the Thrylians could not reach. Alex coordinated human allies, creating distractions and decoys. The lessons of chaos and unpredictability, once foreign to Xylee, now became tools of survival. When the Thrylians descended, they were met with confusion and resistance. Traps triggered alarms, decoys misled them, and Xylee's nimble movements allowed her to evade capture repeatedly. She realized that her perceived weaknesses, small size, unorthodox methods, unpredictability, were exactly what made her formidable in this environment. The Thrylians, accustomed to rigid structures and obedience, were frustrated. They could not adapt quickly, could not anticipate the improvisations of humans and Xylee. Every failed attempt forced them to reconsider their assumptions. Xylee, once rejected and underestimated, had become the center of a demonstration. Humans and imperfection could overcome even the most advanced and disciplined species. By dawn, the Thrylians withdrew, defeated for now. Xylee collapsed beside Alex, exhausted but exhilarated. I never imagined this, she whispered. My weakness has become strength. Sometimes it's courage, creativity, and the willingness to keep going. Humans had not only shown her a new way of living, they had shown her a new way of being. As the sun rose over the forest, painting the trees in golden light, Xylee felt a rare emotion welling up inside her, hope. She had faced rejection, danger, and the impossible, yet here she was, alive, defiant, and stronger than ever. She looked at Alex and smiled, wings twitching in quiet joy. Together they would face whatever came next. Together they would survive. Together they would prove that even the smallest, most underestimated being could change the course of events in a galaxy that thought it knew everything. The forest was quiet in the early morning, yet tension hung thick in the air. Xylee and Alex moved cautiously, alert to every sound and shadow. The Thrylians had returned, this time in force, their sleek ships blotting out parts of the sky. Xylee's heart pounded as she surveyed the approaching threat. Her species was relentless. They had come not just to reclaim her but to punish her for defying their rigid laws. Alex crouched beside her, speaking softly. We knew this might happen, but we're ready. Trust what we've prepared. The Thrylians' leader, a tall, imposing figure named Viewership, stepped forward from the ships. His gaze swept over Xylee, cold and unyielding. Xylee, he said, voice sharp as crystal, you have defied your species. You have associated with humans, creatures beneath us. Return now or face consequences you cannot survive. I will not return. I choose my path. I choose humans. I choose life, freedom, and connection. Stick to the plan. Xylee darted between trees, small and fast, using her size to slip past enemies and disable traps meant for her. For hours, the battle unfolded in a tense, chaotic dance. Xylee learned to combine Thrylian techniques with human improvisation, blending speed and cunning. She found herself exhilarated, even as danger pressed close. Each narrowly avoided capture, each clever trick, each human ally's quick thinking reminded her that strength came in many forms. Viewership, growing frustrated, called for a direct assault. His soldiers moved in tighter formation, attempting to corner Xylee and Alex. The humans responded with teamwork, using natural obstacles, camouflage, and misdirection. Xylee used her small wings to leap over fallen logs and swing from branches, striking weak points in the soldiers' armor with precision. She realized something profound. Her uniqueness, which Thrylians had always ridiculed, was exactly what made her formidable. Alex moved alongside her, coordinating humans with calm authority. He guided them through the chaos, turning the forest into an advantage. Traps, distractions, and clever maneuvers slowed the Thrylians' progress. The forest, unpredictable and alive, became a weapon in their hands. Viewership, witnessing the Thrylians' struggle against humans and a tiny alien, became enraged. He could not comprehend how what he considered weak could resist, could fight, could outsmart. He approached Xylee directly, energy weapons raised. You will submit, he commanded. Xylee's wings fluttered. Fear surged through her, but she steadied herself. She had survived rejection, danger, and countless challenges. She would not back down now. With a deep breath, she leapt, dodging his weapon, and used her knowledge of the terrain to create an opening. Alex took the opportunity to disable Viewership's support systems using a device he had prepared earlier. The Thrylians faltered, disoriented. Xylee seized the moment, darting between them, creating confusion and slowing their advance. Her small size and agility, once considered weaknesses, became her greatest strengths. She felt a surge of power, not just from her abilities but from the knowledge that she was no longer alone. Humans were beside her, supporting her, trusting her, and adapting with her. Hours passed. The battle raged on, but gradually the Thrylians began to retreat. Their formation broke, their confidence shaken. They had underestimated humans, underestimated the value of unpredictability, adaptability, and courage. Xylee and Alex, working together, had turned the tide. As Virikos retreated, he turned to Xylee one last time. "This is not over," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "Your choices will have consequences. You will face judgment. But I have chosen my path. I have chosen life. I have chosen love. That is my strength." She realized that human qualities, improvisation, emotional intelligence, teamwork, were just as powerful, if not more so, than Thrylian precision and logic. Over the next days, Xylee and Alex worked to strengthen their defenses and repair the forest damage. Xylee reflected on what had happened. She had been rejected by her species for being different, for being small and imperfect. But here, on a chaotic, vibrant planet, she had discovered her true worth. Humans had shown her that value was not measured by size, perfection, or status, but by bravery, creativity, and the willingness to stand for what one believes in. Her bond with Alex deepened. Together, they explored, learned, and planned for the future. Xylee taught him Thrylian observation techniques, while he introduced her to human improvisation, humor, and problem-solving. The exchange of knowledge created mutual respect and admiration, a connection neither had anticipated but both cherished. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with shades of orange and purple, Xylee and Alex sat by the river. The water reflected the fading light, rippling gently with the wind. Xylee watched the movement, contemplating the events of the past weeks. "I never imagined," she began, her voice quiet. "I never imagined I could survive, that I could be valued for who I am. And maybe someone else to help you see it too." Virikos had promised consequences, and Xylee knew they would return. The galaxy was vast, but the reach of the Thrylians was greater. Yet, for the first time, fear did not dominate her. She had allies, knowledge, and a sense of purpose. She had learned that even the smallest, most underestimated being could make a difference. As night fell, Xylee looked at the stars, countless points of light scattered across the sky. She thought of her homeworld, the cold, judgmental skies of Thrylia, and then back at the vibrant, unpredictable forest around her. She realized that the galaxy held danger, yes, but also wonder, adventure, and connection. She turned to Alex, who smiled at her, eyes reflecting the starlight. "Whatever comes next," he said, "we face it together." Xylee realized that her journey was far from over. The Thrylians would return, challenges would arise, and the galaxy would continue to test her, but she was ready. She had learned to fight, to adapt, and to trust. She had learned that strength was not perfection, but courage, not obedience, but choice. And in this realization, she found an unshakable power within herself. The battle for her freedom had been won, but the war for understanding, acceptance, and love was just beginning. Xylee knew that whatever came next, she would face it head-on, with Alex by her side, and with the knowledge that even the smallest, most rejected being could change the course of events in a galaxy that thought it knew everything. And under the vast, starlit sky, Xylee whispered to herself, a promise more than a thought. "I will survive. I will belong. I will love. And nothing, not even the universe itself, can take that from me." The forest had quieted after the battle, but Xylee knew the galaxy was far from peaceful. The Thrylians had retreated, but they would not forget her defiance. Their rigid society, built on rules and perfection, could not tolerate a member who chose freedom over obedience. Yet Xylee no longer felt the fear that had dominated her for most of her life. She had survived, learned, and grown, and she had found something she never imagined possible: trust, friendship, and love. Alex moved beside her as they surveyed the river clearing, his eyes scanning the horizon for any signs of returning threats. "We've done well so far," he said, "but we have to think ahead. They'll try again. I know now that I am stronger than I thought." Xylee marveled at how humans could improvise and adapt. Their creativity, once chaotic to her, became a source of strength. During quiet evenings, Xylee and Alex would sit by the river, sharing stories and laughter. Xylee learned to understand humor, something her species never valued. She discovered that joy, even in small doses, could be a weapon against despair. Alex, in turn, learned from Xylee's observations and logic. Together, they became a team, a perfect balance of chaos and order, intuition and calculation. One night, as the stars stretched across the sky, Xylee reflected on how far she had come. She had left her home, rejected and alone, to find a strange world filled with creatures she barely understood. And yet here she was, alive and thriving, surrounded by humans who had accepted her without judgment. She realized that her past rejections had not defined her. They had led her to this moment, to this connection, to this place where she truly belonged. As if on cue, the forest trembled. Sensors detected incoming Thrylian ships, faster and more numerous than before. Vyrikos had returned along with additional forces. This was no mere retrieval mission. This was a declaration of intent. They meant to enforce their laws, to punish Xylee, and to assert their superiority over humans. Alex looked at Xylee, determination in his eyes. "It's time. We've prepared for this. Trust your instincts, your strength, and everything you've learned." Fear lingered, but it was tempered with confidence. She had faced them before and survived. She had humans at her side, allies she could rely on. And most importantly, she had chosen her path. The Thrylians landed, their soldiers stepping onto the forest floor with rigid precision. Vyrikos approached Xylee, his gaze sharp and unyielding. "Xylee," he said, voice cold, "you will return. Your defiance ends now." Humans, coordinated by Alex, moved with precision through the forest, using traps, decoys, and natural obstacles. Xylee's agility allowed her to dart through narrow spaces, disabling soldiers and creating confusion. The Thrylians, expecting compliance, were met with resistance and unpredictability. For hours, a tense battle unfolded. Xylee and Alex worked seamlessly, combining human improvisation with Thrylian techniques she had mastered. Each move, each strategy, demonstrated that courage and adaptability could rival technology and rigid perfection. Xylee felt exhilarated. She was no longer the rejected, powerless alien. She was a force, capable of influencing the course of events. At a critical moment, Vyrikos attempted to capture Xylee directly. She leapt into the trees, using her small size and wings to evade him. Alex triggered a series of devices, creating blinding lights and disorienting sounds. Thrylians faltered, their formation breaking as confusion spread. Xylee seized the opportunity to strike, using knowledge of their weaknesses and the forest terrain to her advantage. Slowly, methodically, the Thrylians began to retreat. Their confidence shattered, their pride wounded, they withdrew into the ships. Vyrikos glared at Xylee one last time. "This is not the end," he said. "You may have won today, but your defiance will not go unanswered." As the forest quieted, Xylee turned to Alex. "We did it," she said, voice soft but steady. "We survived together." Xylee began teaching humans some Thrylian techniques of observation, strategy, and efficiency. In return, she learned more about human creativity, problem-solving, and emotional resilience. The exchange created a bond of mutual respect and admiration that extended beyond mere survival. Xylee also discovered love, gentle, patient, and unwavering. Her feelings for Alex grew, nurtured by shared experiences, trust, and respect. She realized that love was not a transaction as it had been in her species, but a choice, a connection built on understanding and care. Alex, in turn, admired Xylee's courage, intelligence, and resilience. Their bond was rare, a union of two worlds, two species, two beings who had found strength in each other. One night under a sky painted with stars, Xylee reflected on her journey. She had left a home that rejected her, crossed the galaxy alone, faced relentless pursuit, and yet she had found a place where she belonged. She had discovered courage, friendship, and love. Humans had shown her that strength was not perfection, but choice. That courage was not absence of fear, but action despite it. That love was not a reward, but a connection built on trust and respect. She turned to Alex, who sat beside her, gazing at the stars. "I never imagined this," she said softly. "A place where I am accepted and loved." You just had to find the right place and the right people. Word of Xyle's survival and courage spread quietly among human settlements and eventually reached her species. Some Thrylians began to question their own assumptions, seeing that what they considered weakness could be powerful. Xyle, once the smallest and most rejected, had become a symbol, a living example that courage, adaptability, and choice could triumph over rigid expectations and prejudice. As months passed, Xyle and Alex worked to build a small haven, a place where humans and Xyle could live safely, learn from each other, and explore the galaxy together. Xyle took pride in teaching others the lessons she had learned. That strength was multifaceted, that courage often came in unexpected forms, and that connection was more powerful than judgment. One evening, as they walked along the river, Xyle paused to watch the reflection of the stars in the water. "I have been rejected by my species," she said quietly, "but I have never felt more seen than I do here. I have found value, purpose, and love." The galaxy was vast, full of challenges, mysteries, and dangers, but she no longer faced it alone. She had humans, a world that embraced her differences, and the courage to face anything. She realized that her journey was not just about survival, it was about creating a life, a legacy, and a connection that transcended species, expectations, and fear. In the quiet of the night, Xyle and Alex sat together under the stars. The forest whispered around them, alive and unpredictable. Xyle felt a sense of peace she had never known. She was no longer rejected. She was no longer small or powerless. She had found a place where she belonged, people who valued her, and a love that was real and enduring. The galaxy remained vast and uncertain, but Xyle had discovered the greatest strength of all: choice. The choice to stand, to fight, to love, and to belong. And as she looked at Alex, she knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, with courage, ingenuity, and unwavering trust. Her heart, once heavy with rejection and doubt, now overflowed with hope. She had survived the impossible, outsmarted the relentless, and discovered the extraordinary power of connection. Xyle had become more than she ever imagined. She was small, yes, but formidable. She was different, yes, but powerful. She was rejected once, but now she was seen, accepted, and loved. And under the vast, starlit sky, Xyle whispered softly to herself, a promise and a truth: "I will belong, I will love, I will thrive. And nothing, not fear, not prejudice, not the universe itself, can take that from me." The story of a tiny, rejected alien had become one of courage, connection, and triumph, a testament to the enduring spirit of life, love, and humanity.